Hello everyone and welcome back to figuring out just how much of an army Fire Emblem armies really are. Now, Sacred Stones is going to be a shorter video because the cast of characters is one of the smallest in the series. I think the smallest in the series, though that might be Echo slash Gaiden. And the Sacred Stones would probably be one of the first examples you think of unprofessional armies due to, the children. But I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, like we've been this entire series. Now, real quick, my point markers. 1 point is you have training and you have experience. Like, you know how to fight and you have fought. Half a point is you've trained to fight, but you might not entirely have any experience fighting. And 0 points is you're just a bum off the street. So, without further ado, let's begin. Eirika. Her whole character is that she's woefully unprepared, but she was trained by Ephraim. Granted, how much sword training you can get from someone who only ever uses lances is suspect, but it is training nonetheless. So, Eirika has had training, but no actual combat experience. Seth's one of those characters where if we were talking about overqualified, he'd get like 20 points. But he is a world-famous general. Like, everyone knows who Seth is, so I think that's very obvious he knows what he's doing. Now, Franz is noted that he recently became a knight, but I think it's safe to assume as a squire he probably actually fought, like brigands or any such things. So I'm going to put him in 1 point because I think it's a very safe assumption. So, that could be a point debated, but I think Franz has probably fought in some things. Plus, he's had knight training. Then we have the 3 people that Hayden sends with Eirika, Gilliam, Vanessa, and Mulder. I'm giving all of them a point. Now, you might be asking me something. Why am I giving Mulder a point? I mentioned this a few episodes ago. Just because someone's a healer doesn't mean I think they don't necessarily have combat experience. Because Mulder was sent by the king himself. And he's with knights, and all the knights know him. So I think it's safe to assume he's been with knights to heal them before. Like, this is a lot like, say, I'm going to give Reese a point in Path of Radiance because he's been with the mercenaries. He's their combat healer. I think it's safe to assume that Mulder has a very similar background. I don't think he's just a random priest, like, say, Claude or Reese. I think... Wait. Reese with the W-Y-R-S, not Reese R-H-Y-S. Are they pronounced the same? How the fuck's with those names? Anyways, Mulder gets a point. I'm putting him there. I think it's safe to assume. Next up, we have Ross. He's a child, but he's a child trained by a seasoned war veteran. So, he only gets half a point, but this child does, in fact, have some training to him. He is not just a dummy off the street. Next up, Garcia. Full point. Not a whole lot that I need to talk about here. So, sorry. Yeah, seasoned war veteran. Seth fanboys over him a lot. He might not have fought in a while, but he has fought, definitely. Nemi and Calm are both half a point. Nemi was trained how to use a bow from a guy who was so good with the bow that that armies kept trying to recruit him, and they just didn't, because he didn't want to. So I think it's safe to say she had training from an expert archer. And Calm, I mean, he clearly knows how to thief. I don't know. Should I give him a point? I don't think so. But, I'll give him a point because he clearly knows how to thief. But is that the same? Because, like, Rennick's a thief with a point, clearly. But Calm? No, I'm giving him half a point. I think he's just a dude off the street that knows how to thief. Arter and Lute are both half a point because they are nerds with books. Arter, he was sent by the monk the church. Why did the word church blank on me? He was sent by the church to deal with the zombies alone. So you could assume he's like the church's defender, though, and has fought brigands before. But that's too much of an assumption. Arter, I think, is just a nerd with a book, and Lute is also just a nerd with a book. Natasha doesn't. Her supports all depict her as just a member of the clergy. She hasn't actually fought, so she is a healer, a pretty lady with a stick. She knows how to heal, doesn't really know anything about combat. I think that's a fairly safe place to put her. Joshua is a mercenary. He has been a mercenary for at least 10 years, or at max 10 years, because it's stated that he left Johanna Castle 10 years before the start of the game, and he was a mercenary with Calic during that time. So he has plenty of experience. Fun fact, that also makes Joshua, like, probably around 30. Because what? He didn't leave the castle when he was 10 to become a mercenary. So, like, if we assume mid to late teens, he's like 27, 26. Maybe even like 28 or 29. That's a fun fact. Echoes and Three Houses have spoiled us by giving us characters with ages. Ephraim and the boys, they're all a point. Orson, I don't know if I should even put on this list, so I'm just going to put him down there. We'll see if Orson's inclusion really changes that much. Ephraim and his boys, they've all been trained since they were young. They're all seasoned veterans. They've gone out and fought before. Not much to say here. Ephraim is one of the only people that could out Pizza the Hut. Tana. If I gave a point to Franz, I'm going to give a point to her because she's a trained Pegasus Knight. So I think, like, it's safe to assume she's gone out and fought before to, complete knight training. But, I mean, Tana's character is that she's in a bit over her head, so maybe she hasn't actually fought, but I think it's safe to say that a trained knight who has trained under Serene is worth a point. But that could be debated. I could see putting her down to half a point. Amelia. Amelia is interesting. Because like Tana, she's a trained knight. But I don't know if she... I think the first battle you see her is her very first deployment. Hang on. We have the wiki here, today sponsored by HBO Max. I hope they actually do end up getting Static Shock. I heard a rumor about that. Small grotto village, inexperienced in combat. But inexperienced doesn't mean no experience. It just means not much. Let me see here. So, joins a battalion. Blah, blah, blah. She objects. Well, is that... I'm going to put her at half a point. I don't think she's actually fought... Actually, I'm going to put her in a point. Because I think to become a knight, you have to have some experience training. And fighting. That's a tough one. Fuck, wait a minute. She has a line specifically when she shows up in Eirika's recruitment chapter, and this is showing how much of a fucking nerd I am at this game. I specifically remember that that one of her higher ups is just like, who the fuck are you? And she says she was just transferred here. Blah, blah, blah. Binks, Rennick. I was only assigned to your command today. Stab the enemy, I'm not afraid. Okay, that screams to me that she has not fought before. Like, this lance stabbed the enemy, I'm not afraid. Hang on, maybe her conversation with Franz. That's such a cute conversation. I'm supposed to be fighting with you. Oh, that's utter not. I love you, Franz. Okay. So, I think it's safe to say that Amelia has not fought yet. And that her first deployment is, in fact, against you. So she's had training, no actual experience. Inez. He's literally leading an army before you recruit him. I don't think there's too much to talk about there. The Garrick Mercenaries. Alright, I said shaking your ass is not combat experience, but Tethys and Olivia in Awakening are the exceptions, because Tethys is literally part of a world-famous mercenary group. So I think that counts for experience. Fairly safely to say, counts for experience. Like, you don't become... Is she second in command? Like, close to second in command of a world-famous mercenary group without being capable. So... And Heroes isn't canon, but she uses daggers there, so I guess we can just assume she knows how to use a knife, even though... Larshel and Dozla. They actually get a point, because you'll have to remember, Larshel has been fighting demons since before the game began. So... I think she gets a point, because she has led her band of merry men around campaigning against the creatures of darkness for a long time. So, I think it's safe to give her a point. Even if her idea of fighting against things is whacking people with her staff rather than healing Dozla when he needs it. Saleh, or Saleh, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce his name. He's a point because not only is he a well-trained sage, fun fact, his mother, Dara, grandmother, Dara, that old lady you see in his recruitment chapter, there's code in her in the game that she was originally going to be maybe playable as a druid. Curiously enough, though, despite being a woman, she uses the male sprite of the druid. Sacred Stones doesn't actually have a female druid sprite in the game. Neither does Blazing Sword. All the druids in that game are male because you only get Canis. So he's had training, and he has canonically fought in battle before, because he's the one that killed Garrick's friend back when Garrick and his friend that became mercenaries together just started. So he had to fight for some reason. I don't think it's ever stated why. I don't think it's really that important. But he has fought in combat and has killed a man. Ewan. He has book training, but that doesn't really mean he's, combat ready. In fact, the first time you see him, he's running away from a zombie. Fun fact, in his recruitment chapter, you get a different conversation to recruit him depending on whether you visit the village with Eirika, Saleh, Tethys, or anyone else. Just, cool. Cormag. He's a trained knight. Even Seth knows who he is. So, I think it's safe to say there. Rennick. He's a mercenary from Carcino. Fun fact, he's the only character in the game from Carcino. As much as I think Sacred Stones is one of the best written games ever, world building is not what it excels at. All we get of Carcino is this one dude. But he is a trained thief. He knows what he's doing. Despite his best objections, I will not separate them. And not much else to say there. Fucking Dussel, I don't need to say shit. Next person. Noel, nerd with the book. Granted, maybe he could be higher up because even Dussel and Natasha know who he is. So, he seems to have some level of presence in the castle. But I think he's just a scientist. So, he is a nerd with the book. One of my favorite nerds with the book. I love him. But the nerd with a book. Myrrh! Nothing. She doesn't know how to fight. She doesn't have any experience. She was just an innocent wrapped into this whole bullshit. Serene, trained captain of a group of knights, has been fighting for many years. Not much to say there. Corpse Fucker would get a point if I counted him. Do I want to count him? No. I don't think I do. I'll put him on there because he is a player-controlled unit. Sure, I'll put him on there. He's a well-known knight for many years. Got sad his wife died, and then fucked her corpse. It's lovely Sacred Stones, bright, happy, fun times. And there we go. A smaller selection than normal. If I remember correctly, there are 33 playable characters in the game. 10, 20, 23, 33, 34. Oh yeah, Orson. You don't count Orson in the main count. So 34. So out of 34, we have 23, 28 out of 34. So 28 divided by 34, 82. Now, since I have the memory of a goldfish, I remember that that's higher than Binding Blades, but I think that's lower than Blazing Swords. I don't remember the episode I did 2 days ago. Fucking shoot me. But yeah, there we go. Sacred Stones, decent. 80%, 4 out of 5, not bad. I'd buy something based on that score. So, fucking, there you go. A shorter video for a shorter roster, but tomorrow we have Path of Radiance and Tellius, which I actually have no idea. Off the top of my head, I think that one will be very high. I think. The only one I can really think of as being woefully inept is Racing. We'll see tomorrow. We'll see, not tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I said I was going to do the next episode of Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4 2 days ago. And it's not that I lied to you, it's that I failed. So, we're doing something tomorrow. I don't know what it is. For all we know, I could decide to play more Donkey Kong. See y'all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. And stay safe out there if you need to. Seriously. Be careful. I'm here for you.